This is Musings and Counsel from London Baker Law with Debbie London Baker.
You can find out more, as I mentioned earlier, at londonbakerlaw.com. Debbie, what's better when you have minor children? This is something that's important to someone driving around right now in Tampa Bay.
Right.
They've got a minor child involved. Should they have a trust or a will? Which is it?
I've come to the idea that they are better served with a trust. Children cannot inherit anything until they're 18 years old. And if most of us, maybe the vast majority of us, wouldn't have been responsible with a $50 bill when we were 18 years old,
Right.
much less a lot of money. So what happens is in the trust, the stipulations, the guidelines for how money gets distributed to those children are laid out. So right now, I have a trust where they have 3 adult children and they have 6 minor children. The youngest is 6, the oldest is 16. And what this client has done, I think very intelligently, was made provisions for if the parent of the 16-year-old predeceases both of her parents and her child is still a minor, so they've got a minor grandchild, that the money that 16-year-old is entitled to gets distributed in a certain way. And gets distributed over time until they reach the age of 22. 22 is an arbitrary age. But the trust is much better, I've come to believe, for parents with, if the only grandchild was 16, maybe not, but with the youngest one being 6, absolutely.
Yeah, it's important to get that stuff on paper, and having an attorney do it can help you draw up the language that's going to hold up as well in a court of law as well. One of the things we've talked about on a prior episode is the importance for a parent, who has young, non-adult age children, who's rolling around right now and not recognizing the fact that if something were to happen to them or their spouse in the state of Florida, their children could become wards of the state, essentially.
Right.
If something were to happen to them.
Right.
And so talk a little bit about that. We've got just a couple of minutes before we head into break. So talk a little bit about that, because I don't want to be shocking, but I do want to shock those folks right now that don't have the paperwork in place. If they have children, they may not know that their kids could go to the state of Florida, not to their sister or brother or cousin or uncle who may live right next door.
Right next door, right.
If they don't have the paperwork in place.
So the thing is, I learned Children and Family Services has no choice but to come in if there's a minor. So if the parents aren't going to get home and they're with a babysitter under the age of 18 who has no legal authority anyway, they have no choice but to take it. So what I do with children with young families, like the trust, we appoint temporary guardians. That's the person who lives next door, who can come in and be with those children until such time as a permanent guardian can get there from Guam. Let's say, since I've already mentioned
You
Guam.
already used Guam,
but
right?
if you don't name those people, even if your children are only in custody for a matter of an hour or 2 until somebody's found, do you really want to do that to your children, whether they're 17 and a half or 3? Probably not. And I can totally get that you'll absolutely live until your children get to be 18, until you hear of a family where parents were killed in a car accident and all 3 of their children were in the car and all 3 of the children survived, and then the family's arguing. And if you have to go to court about it, the judge will appoint the person who looks better on paper versus the person you would have chosen if you'd bothered to put it on paper.
It's so important.
Encouraging news, right?
Yeah, well, these are topics that, yes, they do make the heart heavy, but they're so important, and that's why you're passionate about what you do.
Yes.
This is why, and you can hear it in Debbie's voice if you're listening right now, that she loves what she does because she's helping people. She's been helping people for over 30 years as a coach and now as an attorney. She's Debbie London Baker, counselor and attorney at law with London Baker Law. Listen, if you need questions answered about last will and testament, minor children, medical power of attorney, any of these kinds of topics, doesn't hurt to just pick up the phone and call. Drop over to londonbakerlaw.com.
This has been Musings and Counsel from London Baker Law. Learn more at londonbakerlaw.com. Thanks for listening.